One of my favorite games of all time is another open world game, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. The philosophy of the game seemed to be about giving the player freedom to play how they wanted, which is similar to New Vegas. Breath of the Wild's freedom was with gameplay, and New Vegas's is with role-playing. So what if you want to bring The Legend of Zelda into New Vegas? For this I ask, can you beat Fallout New Vegas as Link? The rules of the challenge mostly concern the types of weapons we can use. Luckily, in Breath of the Wild, Link uses an assortment of weapons, but unfortunately for me, they're almost all melee weapons. I went through the list of weapons and compiled the categories that will be permitted. Spears, swords, axes, clubs, bats, hammers, and chainsaws for melee weapons. Yes, in Breath of the Wild you can get a chainsaw guardian sword. Link also uses bombs, so I think allowing grenades is fitting. And of course he uses a bow, which can be added by a mod. Other than weapons, the rules also pertain to armor. The only mod I could find that adds Zelda armor is the Barbarian armor, which is surprising. So I will allow that, but the one other article of clothing I will allow is the first Repcon beret, because of the beret he wears with the Royal Guard outfit. He looks so cute in that. Finally, the last rule is that we can't put any points into speech, because Link is of course a silent protagonist. I used the Young Male Race preset mod, and just went with the default hair. I chose very well-rounded special stats. Strength 7, Perception 5, Endurance 6, Charisma 5, Intelligence 5, Agility 7, and Luck 5. I didn't train Charisma because Link is very charming. For tag skills, I chose of course melee weapons, and then lockpick and barter. Thinking about this now, I probably should have picked medicine as one. Finally, for traits, I selected heavy-handed and small frame, because Breath of the Wild Link is very short. Now, Doc Mitchell starts us off with a machete, but he actually has a hammer in his house that is more powerful. We can't shoot Sonny's bottles, so I set off to Prem. When I get there, since I have no armor and am only wielding a hammer as my weapon, I get thoroughly trounced by the convicts. I figured I'm gonna have to turn off the bleedless mod for this, but I also raised the difficulty up to very hard. The bleedless mod basically makes not gun runs unviable, except for explosives. Those basically become one-hit kills. Inside the Bison Steve, I get my first level up and I take a lady killer to trigger the people who say Link is gay. I free the deputy and start to go to the Mojave outpost because we'll be putting the NCR in charge of Prem. At the highway patrol station, I fought some jackals and they had a few fire axes, which is a great upgrade from my hammer. I then murdered a bunch of wildlife and leveled up to 4. This time I chose Confirmed Bachelor to trigger the people who say Link is straight. At the outpost, I picked up quests and persuaded Major Knight to send troops to Prim with barter. I killed the ants on the highway and went back and finished my kind of town. I went to Nipton to talk to Vulpes, then returned to the outpost to turn in quests. I then fast traveled back to Nipton to start the journey to Novak. I killed a lone Viper archer and got their bow. Every time I try to take on a group of them, I get destroyed by their arrows and poison. So I stopped by the dead courier and then went to Novak, but before getting there I leveled up. I took toughness because I've been getting killed so much. While in town, I talked to Manny, and he told me where Benny went because of Confirmed Bachelor, but I wanted to start Come Fly With Me anyway. I went to Repcon and hacked away at the ghouls. When I got to the basement, I talked to Harland and tried to take on the Nightkin, but they kept killing me too. So I went out the back entrance and decided to come back later. I wanted to take out my frustration on some ants, but even they were killing me. No armor against fire is very bad. So I went to the next dead courier and got some nice weapon repair kits for my axe. I went to Boulder City and then fast traveled to Good Springs to head north because that's where the armor I can use is. I started to fight the Cazadors, but then I realized I only had one anti-venom, so I decided I'd come back later. At Boulder City, I talked to Jessup and left because I didn't have the speech skill to deal with the situation. But I did level up and get my melee weapons to 100. I got killed by some lake lurks and then went around to all the vendors looking for anti-venom. None of them had any. So I went and killed some fiends and leveled up to 8, getting the Super Slam perk. I then went toward the strip and was barely short of the 2,000 caps to get in, so I sold a laser rifle to the Garretts and then had enough. I talked to Mr. House, but I didn't have any evidence for Swank, so I agreed to go up to the presidential suite. It was a trap, but I had the hammer, which was a holdout weapon, so I beat Benny's guards to death. I was really wanting a piece of armor, so I went back to Novak to do Boone's quest. I picked the safe and took Jeannie Mae to the dinosaur and found out that the beret messes up the hair, so I guess I won't be using it. I went to the fort next and kept getting killed by the robots in the bunker. I tried to leave to prepare more, but apparently we're not allowed to leave the fort until we finish inside. So I used a stealth boy and stealth killed some of them, making it easier. I couldn't beat the turrets in the final room, even with chems, so I just ran in there, installed the chip, and ran out. As soon as I left the bunker, I fast traveled away to Good Springs and went north again. I beat the first of the Cazadors, but the ones swarming around in the tribal village were giving me trouble. I still only had one anti-venom, mind you. I used a stealth boy to sneak up closer, but they still kept detecting me. I VATS attacked and somehow teleported up onto a tent where, despite them being able to fly, they couldn't get me. I used my only anti-venom and healed up, and then went back into caution and all spread out. I jumped down and grabbed the armor, and there was also a weapon added by the mod. It's a club and it's pretty overpowered, so I only end up using it here. Right now writing the script, I just remembered I had a bow that I could have used while I was on the tent. I completely forgot about that, and it's gonna be a pattern. I got poisoned one last time, and couldn't fast travel because of it, so I sat there and waited while pumping stim packs. I used like 8. Now that I have armor, I went back to Repcon and cleared out the Nightkin there. Chris wants me to get the igniting agent for the rockets, and on the way there, I take on some Vipers, which are much easier now too. I got the goo, and the next is the thrusters. Thanks to Lady Killer, old Lady Gibson gave them to me for free. After finishing that quest, I went back to Mr. House to get my next assignment. He wants me to befriend the boomers, so I killed the ants, listened to Pete's story, and helped Jack get a girlfriend. This still wasn't enough to get idolized, so I was going to repair the array, but I couldn't get into Helios 1 because I don't have enough speech or NCR rep. So I went to Camp Forlorn Hope, which was under attack by Legion for some reason. They were easily dealt with, and I started helping out there. The quartermaster sent us to go pick up some lost supplies, and we got ambushed by Legion after picking them up. I killed the Legionnaires and their pet gecko, and went back to the camp. I told Dr. Richards I couldn't help him with the injured troopers, and started the assault on Nelson. It was pretty easy. I made one guy fly out of his watchtower. I got accepted by the NCR, but that isn't enough to get into Helios 1 apparently. I went to the Gunrunners to see if I could just buy some missiles to turn into Raquel, but they only had the special variants for sale for some reason. So next I went to Camp McCarran to do 3-card bounty. The hardest one was Driver Nephi, surprisingly, because there were 2 fiends in his campment with rocket launchers. Cook only took 1 try. This still wasn't enough, so I looked up where to get scrap metal to give to Jack. I bought all the scrap metal old Lady Gibson had, and that wasn't enough, so I went to the Repcon basement and picked up all the scrap metal in there, and that finally did it. I need to remember for the future, if I ever get walled like that again, that I can go grab some scrap metal to progress the quest. I raised the bomber and went back to Mr. House, who rewarded me with more things to do. He wants us to deal with the Omertas, so I pickpocketed the journal from Kachino and headed up to the suites to deal with Clandon. I lockpicked his safe and found his tapes and confronted him. I snuck the hammer in as a holdout weapon, and it even has a special move called Hammer Time. That's funny. I lockpicked another safe to find Troik's blackmail note to get him to help us destroy the guns. It's lucky I decided to put points in the lockpick up to 75. I didn't know what else to put them in. Now we go up and kill the bosses, and Kachino sadly died during the fight. Oh well, it doesn't matter to me. Back to House, and he now wants us to take on the Brotherhood of Steel. Thanks to Super Slam, the first few guys weren't much of a problem. The sheer number of them deeper in, though, I couldn't deal with. So I used a stealth boy and snuck into the 2nd level to kill the owners of the key cards. Hardin has a super sledge in his room, which is a nice upgrade from our axe. I ran out the bunker and it blew up. That was easier than I expected it to be. Now it's time to save the president. I didn't know that you could pickpocket the fake engineer and confront him, causing him to attack, and then the president flees safely. This way might be faster than what I normally do, and it doesn't require a skill check. The final thing to do before the Battle of Hoover Dam is to plant the override chip at the El Dorado substation. I got killed by ants again, so I went to Helios 1 and walked from there. I went back to the strip, but remembered I wanted to repair my equipment, so I went to the Mojave outpost and did that. Starting the battle, I killed the first few legionnaires easily and took out the heavy guards. I planted Mr. House's thing and turned the power on and went to the second part of the dam. I kept getting killed by the Centurion's high-powered rifles, and I only had 10 stim packs, so I decided to reload the sys save and buy some more from resave before starting the fight again. When I got back to the part I was at, I hid in an alcove until the Securitrons died, and then remembered I actually had grenades, so I used one to kill the last 2 Centurions blocking the way. This is the only time in the challenge I used a grenade. I got to the Legate, and used Psycho and Medics, and beat him and his goons with the help of Super Slam and a couple Super Stim Packs. General came out, and I started combat, and ran behind the wall and hid. Thanks to Bleedless not being on, I don't get destroyed by the Rangers in one hit. It came out when it was just Oliver left, but a Securitron blew me up. So I did it again, and this time got the last hit on Oliver, and beat Fallout New Vegas as Link. Would I recommend this challenge? It was a pretty simple melee run, but not having speech was pretty annoying. I know some people like to play that way though, so if you like melee, sure, go ahead and try it. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content like this. I have a playlist on the screen of all my New Vegas challenges, so check that out if you like this one.